Hey there, welcome to Here's What I Learned. I'm Jackie Hayes, a systems strategist, unapologetic, smutty romantasy lover, Dungeons & Dragons geek, and your no BS guide to building a business that works for you. This is the place where we swap stories, share lessons, and get real about the highs and lows of creating a life and business that actually feels good. No cookie cutter advice here, just honest conversations about what's working, what's not, and how to rewrite the rules to fit your version of success. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's dive in. Hey friends, welcome to episode 99 of Here's What I Learned. Before we do anything else, I want to say thank you. Over the years, nearly 60 guests have shared time, stories, and hard-won lessons with us. Some were friends before they came on the show. Many have become friends and collaborators after. I'm grateful for every one of you. When I started this podcast back in March of 2021, the goal was simple and very me. Talk to more people, learn from more people, and build deeper relationships through honest conversations. Mission accomplished and still ongoing. It wasn't always easy. Producing a podcast solo is a lot. It's time consuming, it's fiddly, and there are moments you want to set the whole thing on fire and walk away. The season format is probably what kept this show alive. Built-in pauses to breathe, learn, and come back better. And now I'm even happier to say I'm not doing it alone. Podfox Media is producing the show, which means they handle the parts I hate doing, and I get to focus on conversations, ideas, and making this genuinely useful for you. So Podfox, you're the best. So what's coming next? January kicks off season 10 and episode 100, and we're doing something I'm really excited about. Experiments. Here's how that'll work. We'll design a small, real-world experiment around a business question, something a guest is actually prescribing to me. We'll document the setup, the constraints, and what success would look like. We'll run it, check the data, and talk honestly about what happened, what worked, what didn't, and what we would do differently. And these are experiments you can follow along with and do yourself. Because running a business is running experiments. We're always learning, iterating, and choosing the next right step with the info we have. I want the show to reflect that reality. Less perfect playbook, more let's test this out in the wild. And don't worry, we're keeping the in-depth interviews you've told me you love. You'll still get thoughtful, long-form conversations. The difference is you'll also hear the process of testing ideas, not just the polished outcome 6 months later. If you're the kind of listener who hears this and thinks, ooh, I have an experiment I want to try, I'd love to hear about it. Bring me your hypothesis, your constraints, your messy middle. That's all the good stuff. To our guests, past and future, thank you. To Podfox, thank you. And to you listening, thanks for being here, learning alongside me, and making it possible to reach episode 99. Season 10 lands in January. We're going deeper, we're getting braver, and we're treating business like the living lab it is. All right, let's get into today's episode. Today, we're doing something a little different. I pulled the moments from past episodes that still hit home. Think of this as a highlight reel of ideas we keep returning to. Doing business your way, not the quote-unquote professional policies and policing. Design for energy, not just time. And treat business like a series of small experiments you learn from. Okay, so we're going to jump right in. First up is Becky Mollenkamp from season 8. We talk about how professionalism can be code for control and why building a business that is deeply you is the point, not the problem.
Who established what is and isn't professional? It was white men, right? Because for the bulk of modern history, right, industrial history, it has been white men in the workplace. Obviously, long before that, women were very much involved in work and in labor, but we were not paid for our labor. We continue to not be paid for a lot of our labor as caretakers and parents, but we were not paid for our labor and contributions, or it wasn't valued the same way. But the move to the office space and that was the biggest piece, is sort of that post-industrial moving to the office space, and white men were the ones who were first just even allowed to work. And then once women were allowed, quote unquote, to come into the workspace, it was still the white men who were determining what was and wasn't acceptable in the workspace. And so, of course, the goal was to make everyone as white and as male as possible, whether you were white or male or not, right? So the idea of a suit, and how long did it take for people to say, like, why do I have to wear a suit? And women wearing suits, and what do their suits need to look like, and women needing to wear hosiery for the longest time. And anyway, and you're right, absolutely, the things that continue today around, like, oh, what does a person's hair look like? Who is to say what is professional as far as appearance? And then also behaviors, because it corrects for language, right? There was only certain types of language that are professional, right? There's only certain relationships with time that are professional. So it's like in all parts of the way we show up and work, and trying to question ourselves around those. And to be clear, some of those things you may find work really well for you, right? Some people, being able to get work done looks like having an office, or it looks like having a desk, or it looks like working between set number of hours, right? Because of childcare restraints. Like, there are things that are traditionally, quote unquote, professional, you may continue to adopt because they work for you. But that's the key thing, going to your idea of, like, what does it mean to work for you? It's like, it needs to work for you, right? And there are times for me when, including right now, working my desk doesn't work for me. So I'm not working at my desk. Am I less professional? Am I not able to accomplish my work? Am I not able to show up and speak to your questions? No, right? So why should it matter where I'm performing the job, as long as I'm able to do the job and do it well? But those were things that were hard for me to break for a long time. And I think they are for most people. And I think the big thing is, most of it goes unexamined for most of us. We just assume that is the way it has to be, because it's just what we've always known. And I think the exciting part is when you can finally start to question it all and say, why? Why do I think it has to look this way? What changes if I say, I don't like that, I want to do this instead? Does that really affect my performance? Does it affect the results? Maybe not.
If professional ever made you smaller, that's your nudge. Values over vibes over rules. Staying with Becky for one more. This is the quote unquote love seat format. One creator in the seat, a whole room of brains supporting, and we start with better questions. I know that the way you're running the quote unquote meetings is this love seat idea. How did that come to mind, and what does that look like, if you could describe that for the listeners?
Yeah. So just quickly, we have 4 calls a month. One is a co-working session. Most people know what those are. We just get together and work on things quietly. One is an education session. So we have an outside speaker, come in and teach us something related to podcasting. And then the other 2 sessions every month are what we call these spotlight sessions, where one podcast is in the love seat, not the hot seat, because that sounds really not fun. So a love seat, who wouldn't want to sit in that? And the entire collective brings all of our thinking power together to help that podcaster with whatever challenge they're facing. It could be something around monetization, like, how do I get sponsors? Or how do I, turn these listeners into clients? It could be something around the content. Is this resonating? What could I do better? I'm running out of ideas. It could be a whole host of things. It could be like, administrative stuff. I need better systems in place, or what tools should I use? And we all get together and help them with that. And then the week following their love seat session, the whole collective works together to promote their podcast.
The clarifying questions often beat the quick fixes. Curiosity scales better than certainty. Now, next up is Amanda Gold from season 7. This one's playful. What happens when you add a game mechanic, like rolling dice, to keep experiments small, safe, and fun?
I love that you asked, because this has been a huge part of making business better for myself. Because I think I have ADHD too. I've never been officially diagnosed, but I tick all the boxes. And when I've started treating myself as such, things have been a lot better. So One thing is gamifying stuff. And I love dice. I collect dice and I use them all the time. So if there's something mundane or tedious that I know I don't want to do, I'll roll a D6 and a D20. And that gives me anywhere from 2 minutes to 26 minutes that I'm going to focus on this thing. Right. So
all my D&D dice are now going to be used in my business because I absolutely love that.
by the way, I also have business only dice that kind of match my business only deck. They're very sparkly and pointy, and I have them handy, but they're on my altar over there. Yeah, I have dice for different phases of my menstrual cycle too. I got red ones, I've got hot pink ones, I've got glittery ones. Also, another thing I'll do is I'll list out 6 things that I want to get done over the day or the week, and then I roll a d6 to decide which one to start first. That's been really fun. Another way is I'll do a list of ought tos, have tos. I don't actually believe in should do or have to. Everything's a choice, but taxes would fall in the ought to, have to side. Yeah. Want to would be like go for a walk, make art, work on a puzzle. And then I'll roll a dice. And even as I work on this list, odd as I work on that list. And so I'm weaving fun things in with have tos. Because when I first started, I was so earnest and diligent and serious that I was only focusing on like everything I should be doing to have a successful business. And I've really been able to lighten up and understand the importance of play too. Like it really is a non-negotiable to make it fun and make it interesting and give myself treats and rewards along the way as well.
Tiny bets, fast feedback, joyful data. That's going to be the season 10 energy. Also from season 7 is Patricia Sung, designing for energy, not just time. White space, buffer, and cycle-aware planning so your business stops fighting your brain and body.
And I think even if you're thinking like, well, I don't have a regular cycle, or maybe you're a dude listening, you don't have a cycle at all. Like this idea of like making your schedule fit you doesn't have to hold to this pattern. Like, what is it that's going to work for you? I think all of us would do better with like a week where it's just like, tone it down a little bit. Let's rest a little more. Like not having all these meetings on your calendar gives you space to work on the big projects that you've been meaning to do for who knows how long, but never got around to it. Like this idea of not every week has to be the same. I don't have to go 100 miles an hour every week, all day, hustle culture, go, go, go. Like we don't have to do that all the time. It's okay to take a week and say, even if you have no idea how it relates to your hormones, like I'm just going to have a chill week. I'm going to clean out the thing that I've been meaning to clean out, like your proverbial, closet clean out of your business, or work on that cool thing. But to have the space to do that, like, especially if you have ADHD, like we need that white space. We need space for our brains to wander and run around and listen to all the cool ideas floating around our brains. And that wandering white space is so good for you. So even if it's not in time with your body, having that space where a week is different can really be helpful and restful and actually brings you to be so much more efficient because you've had that space to slow down for a sec.
Build in more margin than you think you need. Protect the joy and watch productivity follow. Next, we have Steph Wharton from season 4. She flips goal setting on its head. Start with the life you want, then reverse engineer the business to support it.
So one of the more simple and tangible ways that I like to do that is I have a bit of like an onboarding process. You've obviously gone through it, but for people that haven't seen it, it's essentially a form and we start to uncover what the goals are. But instead of just asking what your goals are just flat out and allowing that kind of conditioning to come through and the comparison and just these ideas around what goal setting should look like based on what people are used to seeing and experiencing, I like to ask different questions that kind of rephrase the question at hand. So it can be something along the lines of, what's your goal in business? Like, is there something you want to launch? Is there something you want to achieve? Is there a lifestyle that you want to embody, whatever? But then start to reframe by saying things such as, stop thinking or focusing necessarily on what other people are achieving, what other people are talking about. So if we're removing the comparison, we're removing what everybody else is doing. What I love for people to start with is, what do you want your life to look like? Like best day. If you were having so much freaking fun, you felt like a total badass, like what does that day look like? And then we can actually work backwards and figure out what kind of business structure, whether it's the offers, the marketing, the behind the scenes support, whatever that could be, how can that actually support that dream lifestyle? So instead of going for the, hey, I want 6 figures, or hey, I want to launch a program, or I want this, it's like, well, no, is that actually what you want? Maybe somewhere in there that's true and that's a fact. But at the end of the day, that's more from like a let's create impact and let's have a financially sustainable like stream of income. But other than that, the goal for a lot of entrepreneurs usually is more intrinsic. It's more about, I want freedom, I want flexibility, I want to be happy, I want to do something that I love, I want to call my own shots. So if that's the goal, then what does that look like in real life? So at the end of the day, whether it's through onboarding, whether it's through ongoing coaching, we try and coax that out. And for some people, it's more natural. And for other people, you know what? No, we might go in a certain direction, experience some resistance. And as we experience that resistance, we start to uncover perhaps the reason why. And maybe the reason is why they've thought they wanted X, Y, Z. But in fact, when you're looking inwards and trying to explore what makes you happy, it gets to look like something completely different.
I know when I was filling out the onboarding workbook, one of the things that happened is I filled it out and then I went back to it and I literally have strike throughs because I'm like, oh, nope, those are not really my goals or whatever it happened to be. I realized the conditioning that I saw in that and I wanted to keep it there. So instead of deleting it, I kept it there and just did the strike throughs because I'm like, I want to remind myself of this. And then I remember we just did like our quarterly reviews of our goals and going back and being like, oh, like my goals literally started with, I want December off. I want to take May and June off. Like those were my top goals. I want to set up my business so I could have 3 months out of the year that I'm not really working and 2 additional months that are kind of slow. So basically, I don't want to work full time for half of the year. So those were like the top goals I had for my business. And then it was like, okay, well, how do I achieve those? You know, my business now has to be set up in such a way that that's a possibility. So what does that look like for me?
Yeah, I'm going to say I loved and appreciated the fact that you left that information there and just crossed it out. Because even for the coach or anybody that's working with you, exposed to you, it's good to have that insight just to see how your brain works, what was the goal, perhaps, whether fully realized or not, doesn't matter. But at one point it crossed your mind. So then that helps the entire process. If that ever comes back up again, then it's like, we're aware of it. So it's like, okay, let's explore it. Maybe realistically speaking, now it is a goal, or is there doubt setting in, or is something changing that's making us think we want that again, as opposed to the month off or whatever else that was like feeling much more empowering and exciting.
I keep my struck through conditioned goals visible. It's an honest mirror and a great filter. From season 7, Tracy Stanger with a mantra I love. Do the weird stuff only you can do, and plan simple enough that it survives contact with real life.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm so excited that you are asking this question, that we're having this topic, because I also think that I epitomize this. Like I try to. If you have seen me for a minute, you know I'm all about doing what I call most you business. And so what that really means to me is I believe everybody has something in you that only you can do the way only you can do it. I really want to see people being creative and doing that weird shit inside of you that only you could do. So it kind of goes back to how I started this business. I started it to help moms create space in your life, knowing that like momming and business could take up 24/7. And so I kind of thought this would be time management in quotes. But really the answer for getting things done in less time is focusing on doing things your way. And, you know, over time, I've been in this business over 5 years at this point. It's become even more important to me to kind of combat the traditional business that we see, or the, you know, do it just like me because I said, and it did, you know, kind of pyramid scheme online business that there is. It's just that much more important to do things your way.
So when you do business your way, what does that look like?
Well, I mean, hopefully everything that I do. And just to clarify, like by business, even
I believe it's really just three things. Like you need something to sell, some way to sell it, some way to count your money and keep it coming, which in other words is like you need offers, you need a marketing and sales strategy, a way to meet new people, tell them what you do, build relationships, ask for the sale. And then literally like how you work. Do you work in the morning? Do you work every day? Do you work for 3 hours at a time or 15 minutes? Like all of that stuff. Most business, like doing business my way, is in everything. The offers that I design, how I meet people, what I do, the tools I use, all of it.
Excellent. So for those of you who've been listening to the podcasts for a while now, Tracy has been on the show before. One of those episodes was a launch lessons episode for the private podcast that is out right now at the time of recording this. By the time you hear this, it probably will not be available. Then also the Plan Your Year episode. We talked a lot about the tool that you have that is Plan Your Year and how it came to be and how you use it. Can we do just a little teeny tiny recap of that so people get really interested to go back and listen to that other episode?
Yeah. So Plan Your Year, again, doing business my way thing. I knew that like in order to do the things I want to do, I needed to first see what space I had available. So when I started this business, I was still in my 9 to 5. I had very limited time, probably like 10 hours a week to devote to this business, which I've since stayed at about 10 or 15 hours a week, even with more time. And so Plan Your Year was born of my process to visualize that, to see what kind of space are we actually working with here, and then a process to walk through, like, what is it that's most important that you're trying to get done? So when are you going to do that with space for this? And it's a process that walks you through figuring out like when you do what in your business so that you are making the most impactful steps forward. You're weeding out this shit that doesn't need to get done. And it's awesome.
If the plan doesn't fit you, change the plan, not yourself. Thank you for listening, and thank you to every guest who shared your brain and your heart on this show. If one of these moments sparks something, tell me. I want to hear the experiment you're itching to try, the constraint you're working with, or the metric you care most about. Season 10 starts in January. We're keeping the deep interviews, and we're adding small, real-world experiments, defined upfront, debriefed honestly. If you've got one in mind, pitch it to me. Bring the hypothesis, bring the messy middle. Big thanks to Podfox Media for producing the show so I can focus on conversations and what you actually need. If you loved today's episode, send it to a friend who'd appreciate a gentler, more human take on business. I'm Jackie, this is Here's What I Learned, and I'll see you in Season 10. Thanks for hanging out with me on Here's What I Learned. If today's episode gave you an aha moment, a laugh, or something to think about, make sure you're subscribed to my email list. That's where I share even more tips, stories, and behind-the-scenes insights to help you simplify and thrive. And remember, you get to do business and life your way. Until next time, keep experimenting, keep simplifying, and keep learning.